No,
right.
there's no truth to that.
The Cleveland Browns began their first OTA session yesterday with the most notable absence from voluntary workouts being Myles Garrett. Apparently, if you look at his Instagram, he's in Japan. All the focus, though, is on the quarterback battle. It's very, very crowded there. Here's Kevin Stefanski.
We're mixing it up every single day, so that's why I tell you not to read much into it, even though you guys don't listen to me. But we're just trying to get guys exposure to different concepts, those type of things. So we're not leaning into or worried about the order at this moment.
Because it's a good question to bait somebody into answering, and no matter how they answer it, it kind of makes the guy that's answering it look bad. If I say I don't want to be a mentor, I look bad. If I say I do want to be a mentor, then I look like an idiot that doesn't care about being good and playing football. I tend to try to be honest, and I've said I'm not a mentor. I play football. There's learning experiences, and I have a lot of experience, and I can talk on things, and hopefully they listen. But it's not necessarily like my job to like make sure they listen to me. And
you gotta appreciate his honesty there, Bug. I mean, really.
I love it.
You got Flacco, you got Pickett, you got Gabriel, you got Sanders. I mean, what do you make of this crowded room, Bug?
They got a lot of misfit toys in that room, and I get it. First of all, I love the honesty from Joe Flacco. His job is not to be the role model, the mentor. It's to come in there and be the veteran quarterback and try to bring some stability to that room. As far as the room in general, like Deshaun Watson, 2 Achilles surgeries, Flacco, Kenny Pickett with the 2 gloves, then you got the 2 rookies coming in with Sanders and Gabriel. I don't know what we're going to get from them. I don't think anybody with any sense knows what you're going to get from that room. I suspect at some point it's going to be Flacco or Kenny Pickett trying to figure out who's going to start, and then they're going to figure out with the young guys. I don't think Watson is going to be ready coming off not just 1, but 2 Achilles surgeries. So at some point, Lewis, like if you're really going to be honest about this room, they really don't know what they have in this room right now, and they got to hope that somebody steps forward, whether it's a young guy or one of the veterans that they have.
Look, it's really going to be all about rep efficiency, right? As a player, that's what you're looking for. As a coach, that's what you're looking for. Meaning, look, everyone's not going to get equal reps. Everyone's not going to get the same amount of reps, exposed to the same looks, get the same number of throws in each period, whether it be first down, second down, third down, red area 2-minute. But it's about the efficiency. It's about having as close to perfect reps as possible. And then it's up to Kevin Stefanski. And then I think it's important for Kevin Stefanski to move this around from day to day, from practice to practice, to make sure, as he just said, make sure all these guys, though, are exposed to the situations that he needs to expose them to, so he can then make a real, a real organic decision about who's the best guy, so it's truly a meritocracy. You want to make sure that in the end is what comes out of this, and that you're not stacking the deck in one guy's favor over another, which we've seen coaches do now because they're human beings, and they want certain guys to excel based upon their own convictions going into it. And we've seen that mess things up in the history, and we'll see it mess things up going forward.
I think it's so interesting what you're saying, because I remember covering the Seahawks in 2012 up at that training camp up in Renton, Washington, and they had the late Tavares Jackson in camp. You had Matt Flynn, who just signed a massive free agent deal, and in comes a third-round Russell Wilson, and he was bar none the best player. And then the preseason starts, and he's throwing touchdowns all over the Cowboys. And to a man, you couldn't look around to anyone covering the team or anyone within the organization and say anything. Then, hey, our third-round rookie is the best quarterback we got. He started week 1. It's really difficult for a day 3 quarterback to start out of the gate. But with the current situation, and you have a Joe Flacco who has been there, done that, and has been there, done that with this team, and you have Kenny Pickett, who was a backup last year, and you have Dylan Gabriel, who no one else really saw as a day 1 or day 2 pick other than the Cleveland Browns. There is a window. But for Shedeur to have that opportunity, he has to outwork and outplay those guys every single day, because the uphill battle of being a day 3 pick, that is real. Yet I think there is a window open, and in other situations where there's a bona fide starting quarterback, there wouldn't be. So there is an opportunity for Shedeur to win this job.
Yeah, and you bring up the Wilson comparison, maybe the guy nobody saw coming, and then in no time he brought them to their first Super Bowl championship. Well, the Ravens have been one of the top teams in the NFL since John Harbaugh took over in 2008. During that span, they have the 4th best win percentage in the league. They are tied for the 3rd most playoff wins. That might surprise you. Their average margin of victory is second highest in the league. Maybe it shouldn't surprise you given Super Bowl 47 and that title, but this version of the Ravens, Peter, has to take the next step in the playoffs. Lamar Jackson sits at 3-5 in his career in the playoffs. So, I mean, what concerns, if any, do you have about this roster, or do you see them as complete?
How do they get over the hump? You know, it was all there for them last year. The Chiefs weren't the same mighty Chiefs offensively they'd been in the past. The Bills were a team that the Ravens absolutely blew out on a Sunday night earlier in the season. And they get to the playoffs, and of course they get that opportunity, and they go to Buffalo. And whereas Lamar Jackson had been flawless the last several months of the season, throws 2 bad picks in the first half. And then Mark Andrews, who's been Mr. Reliable his entire career with Baltimore, drops 2 big passes, including the potential game-leading 2-point conversion at the end. A heartbreaking finish, but that's been too much the norm under Harbaugh over the last few years. So now you've got Lamar Jackson, who was this young, up-and-coming quarterback, now nearing 30, and then the other end of 30 coming with, wait a second, are these the best years of Lamar Jackson and the best team we're going to be able to field based on contracts and salary cap and everything else that happens in this league? Gosh, to me, if I'm the Ravens, I'm looking on paper and I'm saying Eric DeCosta has built the best team of football on paper. Lamar Jackson's been as good as any quarterback in the NFL the past several seasons. And, you know, we don't have a Super Bowl appearance to show for it. So you can't control crazy things like L'Jarius Sneed knocking a ball out of Zay Flowers' hands or Mark Andrews dropping passes. Yet at some point, you're not going to get those opportunities every season. You got to capitalize on those moments, and they just haven't the past few years.
And I completely agree. And the reason why they haven't capitalized on those moments is because their best players haven't played at their best in those big moments. You talk about Mark Andrews, Lamar Jackson. You talk about a defense that has been subpar from a passing standpoint the last couple of years. It's really simple, guys. If you look at the teams that have won, look at the Philadelphia Eagles. Their offensive line is Saquon Barkley carried the day in the postseason. And Jalen Hurts did what he normally does, but their best players showed up. When the Kansas City Chiefs win, Patrick Mahomes shows up and shows out in the postseason. Your best players have to show up at the most crucial times. We often talk about superstars when they're made. They're not made in the regular season. They're made in the postseason. We're watching that right now with the NBA. What's the difference? The big-time players show up in the biggest moments. And Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry and those guys on the offensive side of the football, they have been outstanding during the regular season the last couple of years. They have got to do it when it counts the most. And to be honest, that's the last step. Like, you don't really need to go out and get more weapons, more offensive linemen. Like, you don't need a bunch of stuff. They have everything they need. Sometimes what you have needs to perform at its best on the day that you need it.
Yeah, it's funny that I'm going to use Mike Tomlin, one of their bitter division rivals, to kind of explain what Baltimore needs to do. Mike Tomlin likes to say you have to make the routine plays routinely. Ball security is a routine play. It's something you practice every day from day one, training camp, install, OTAs, mini camp. That's routine. Catching the football is routine. Mark Andrews can do that in his sleep. Catching it is routine. All that was on that sprint right roll out there in the 2-point. All that is look the ball in. It's a little bit behind you. Get your body down, cup it in, look it in, move on. Lamar knows better than when he's trying to scramble around when he's trying to extend a play. He knows keeping 2 hands on the football is a routine thing that they teach quarterbacks to do in extended play situations. He doesn't. The ball gets knocked out. They turn it over. See, those are the kind of things that they need to do. It's not that they have to make special plays. They don't have to make otherworldly plays or we're going to run on SportsCenter over and over again. Just make the routine plays routinely, and the Ravens will get everything that they want because they are stocked. They're loaded.
Only one AFC championship game they played in with Lamar under center. That was a 17-10 loss to the Chiefs back in 2023.
So I think really when you say different, I think it's going to be like, what do our players do best, like it's been? And then from there, we just expand upon it. Hey, we're really good at this. Let's bring this to the table and try this and see where we can take it. And I think really when you look at just our staff as a whole, we've added some new coaches. So they bring some other layers to it too, and then the knowledge of what they have from their background. So I think as we go forward, as we build this thing together as a staff, you'll see some new wrinkles here and there, but more so it's just kind of building on what our players do best.
And here's the thing, having new play callers, that's nothing new for Jalen Hurts. Petullo, who was an associate head coach, well, this will be his 12th different play caller since he started college back in 2016. And for Hurts, it's his 6th different since entering the NFL in 2020. Despite this, he has the 8th most touchdowns in this span and has the 5th best winning percentage of any quarterback. So, Peter, to what extent do you think he will have to adjust again?
It's a wild stat. 12 different play callers since college, 6th new play caller since joining the NFL. And yet you look at Kevin Petullo's resume. In recent years, he has made a steady climb. He started off with the New York Jets, where he was an assistant coach. Then he went to the Colts, and then he was, of course, with the Eagles all these years. So those Colts and Eagles years, who was he working with? He was working with Frank Reich and Nick Sirianni. And I said, you know what? I know it's the middle of the day. He's at Stanford as their interim coach. I texted Frank Reich this morning. I go, give me something to tell the Eagles fans. Give me something to tell the audience about Kevin Petullo other than a guy who's in a baseball cap and the shadow on his face and talking in generic coach speak. Here's from Frank Reich earlier today, texting me. Really smart, but has no ego. He's hyper organized. He's got strong conviction, and he's an amazing collaborator and teammate. Look, Kevin Petullo is no stranger to Jalen Hurts. They've been in the same building for the last 4 years, and he's no stranger to Sirianni. They go back to their time in Indianapolis together. This is different than hiring from the outside or building an entirely new offense around Jalen Hurts' skills. This is, hey, we're trying to keep this as consistent as it is. And Lewis, as you know, in a case like Jalen Hurts, you want to keep the trains on the tracks because last year ended on such a high note.
Yeah, for sure. Look, I think the number one factor here is the fact that Kevin is no stranger to this building. He's no stranger to the offensive meetings. He's no stranger to Jalen Hurts. And quite honestly, the glue that's supposed to keep this all together, quite honestly, is the head coach, who he obviously has ultimate familiarity with Nick Sirianni. So that's how this should not get off the tracks. And I think one of the most important things that he said that leads you to the belief that, he realizes the same thing is the fact that he said, hey, look, I'm here to really just put our players in position to do what they do best. And I think what he's referring to is think about last year, how their offense evolved. What did they do best last year for the better part of the season? They captured a line of scrimmage, and Saquon Barkley went off and almost had a historic season had they allowed him to go ahead and break the rushing record. That's what they did. They realized what their strengths were. As Adam Schefter likes to say all the time, Stoutland U was in full effect, meaning Jeff Stoutland, the Hall of Fame offensive line coach, had all those guys playing great up front, and everyone just fed off of that. I expect it to be a lot of the same in 2025.
And no doubt about it. And I love how we look at Kevin and talk about his prowess as a play caller. Here's the thing. I don't care if me, Schrager, Louis Riddick, I don't even care if Hannah Storm was calling plays. Here's the one thing that we know. Is that the offensive line is really, really good. We know that the quarterback is really good at running the football. We know that you have Saquon Barkley in the backfield. It doesn't take a genius to put the offense together around that. It's going to stop and start with their ability to control the line of scrimmage and run the football. And then you build off of that with the quarterback run game, the play action pass, and some little wrinkles that every offensive coordinator comes in. This is no different than any business in the NFL. Anytime you get someone new in charge, they always want to add their own little touch so they can say it's their offense. I suggest that Kevin's going to do that. But at the end of the day, when it's all said and done, they are going to run the football and play action pass and take shots down the field to their big play wide receivers. It was successful last year, and I think it'll be successful again this season.
Yeah, dance with what brung you. No reason for wholesale changes there. We got to show you, read and react to some sound coming in across the NFL. And we start with Steelers Hall of Fame quarterback Terry Bradshaw, who gave this assessment of the Aaron Rodgers situation.
That's a joke. That is, this to me is a joke. What are you going to bring him in for 1 year? Are you kidding me? I mean,
that's not the Steelers' way, right?
No, man, that guy needs to stay in California.
Thank you.
And
thank you.
Chew on bark and risk the gods out there.
Hey, Peter, I love this. This is a guy who has won 4 Super Bowls with the Steelers, but he sounds like a disgruntled talk show call-in fan talking about this.
Terry Bradshaw's amazing. I worked with him for 10 years at Fox. Says he wants to chew on bark. That's my line now to anybody I don't want to talk to. Go chew on bark. I'll tell you this, with the exception of Charles Barkley, I don't think there's anyone who gives less of a you-know-what talking about current players today than Terry Bradshaw. I've seen him ruffle feathers with Ben Roethlisberger. I've seen him ruffle feathers with Mike Tomlin, and he had no problem speaking his mind on Rodgers. And I'll tell you what, talking to a lot of Steelers fans, he ain't the only one.
Yeah, exactly. They're saying, preach, Terry, preach. All right, meanwhile, moving on, we head north where Vikings head coach Kevin O'Connell talked about his quarterback, J.J. McCarthy, who heads into camp as the starter in Minnesota.
We can't assume that he knows any particular thing just based upon the meeting room. We've got to come out and feel it and organically feel exactly where he's at. I've told quarterbacks for a long time, the meeting room, when you're studying things on your own, and then when you're in it, in the huddle, coming off of a play where, shoot, I might have missed a protection call, but that doesn't change the fact that there's another down coming and another one and another one. And what I've been really surprised by is some of the things that he does know.
So, Louis, you did so much film work on him going into the draft last year, and it's so unfortunate we haven't seen him at all yet in the NFL, but we're going to. What should we expect?
I think a lot of the things that you hear Kevin O'Connell talking about as far as how brilliant he is, in the meeting rooms and how good of a guy he is in the locker room, you're going to see that translate on the football field. And what he's talking about is that he has functional intelligence. He has functional athletic ability, functional instincts. In real time, you see it all come together. And it's why they moved up to draft him number 10 overall. This guy's one of the great leaders. He can move in the pocket. He can pick up first downs with his legs. He can make all platform throws. He just wasn't asked to do, Hannah, as you know, he wasn't asked to do this and carry the load when he was at Michigan. He's going to be asked to do a lot more of it now, and I think he'll be up to the challenge. He's got a fantastic team and a fantastic coaching staff surrounding him.
Yeah, highest drafted quarterback in Vikings history at number 10. All right, let's go to Houston. Another guy who was drafted high, C.J. Stroud. D'Amico Ryans has a new look O-line to protect his third-year quarterback and was asked about it today.
Yeah, this is our first day of OTAs, so when it comes to finding our best group, it'll be a lot of mixing and matching guys, putting guys in different spots and seeing, which 5 guys work well together. So one thing about the O-line is a lot of smart guys in that room, and they can move around, they can play multiple spots, and so that helps them. But it's just a matter of finding that 5 once we actually can get in training camp, put pads on. Nobody's making the team right now in shorts and helmets.
I love it. Gotta love everything D'Amico says like that, right? And CJ was sacked 52 times last season, Bug. How much better do you expect that O-line to be?
Well, they better be better because the regression that their young quarterback took was due in large part to the offensive line and those 52 sacks you talk about. They got a lot of weapons to choose from as far as bodies on the offensive line where they can plug and play and move guys. But here's the one position that I'll look at that I've really got a lot of question marks about is you take Laramie Tunsil, you trade him to the Washington Commanders, you bring in Cam Robinson at the left tackle position. That is the most important position for a quarterback. It's the blind side. He's got to feel comfortable. And for a quarterback to not feel comfortable last year with Laramie Tunsil, and now you take him away, and I don't care what you say, Laramie Tunsil's a better player than Cam Robinson, and now you put Cam Robinson at that position, I need to see it work because it's going to be a direct reflection on what type of season that C.J. Stroud has next year, whether or not he can get protected on the left side.
Yeah, a lot of Houston fans were with you, Boog, wondering about that move by the Texans front office. We'll see. Only Caleb Williams was sacked more than C.J. Stroud last season. We're going to have more on him coming up, by the way, on NFL Live. Also, Jaden Daniels. A rookie season for the ages. The first rookie in NFL history to throw for 3,500 yards and rush for 800. His total QBR was the 3rd highest by a rookie since the metric was introduced. He became the 6th rookie to start a conference championship game. And the Commanders scored 30 points no less than 7 times with him under center, the most with a single rookie quarterback in NFL history. He was asked today how he's getting ready for year 2 in Washington.
I got to go out there and prove myself each and every day. No matter if it was last season, this season, or, 10, 20 years down the road, you got to prove yourself each and every season.
There is no flinch in Jaden Daniels. He is an absolute, as focused and relentless as you could about getting better. There's a lot of things that, he and the rest of us are really digging in hard on to say, all right, can we get this better? And if he does that, I do that, others do that. Like we thought collectively, and there's a lot of space we can get better at.
Well, Louis Riddick has loved Jane Daniels a long, long time, since way before the draft, and we can all see why. But it is not uncommon, and we talked about C.J. Stroud with Boog just moments ago, for quarterbacks to take a regression in year 2 for any number of reasons. So how can Daniels avoid those pitfalls?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, Hannah, look, Jaden Daniels himself is the last of my worries. He's the least of my worries. I'm not worried about him at all, and I think Dan Quinn already just really expressed that. So when you're talking about why do quarterbacks regress, a lot of times it's about things that surround them. First and foremost, it's about keeping people healthy around him. So meaning keeping the roster intact and making sure that the guys are available for 16, 17 games, and then improving upon those players that are surrounding him. And Adam Peters went out and did that. Look what they did on the offensive line, with getting Larry Tunsil, with drafting Josh Connerly, with drafting Jalen Lane, with bringing in Deebo Samuel. I mean, that's just knocking it out the park. And on the defensive side as well, they added players like Trey Amos, who's going to wind up being a shutdown corner for them. So the team got better. And then, really lastly, keeping the coaching staff intact, keeping the people who are in his ear primarily every single day in the meeting rooms, on the headset. And I'm pointing right at Cliff Kingsbury. He's still there. So that, to me, if you can keep those 3 things in order, look, he's going to do his part. But as long as you keep all that stuff in order around him, I think it's up and away even further, and he takes off and builds off of one of the best rookie seasons we've ever seen.
It's the sky is the limit. I think it's the best rookie season we've ever seen. And I can't imagine. I mean, you can go Randy Moss. You can maybe say some of these other players at different positions, but from the quarterback spot to do all the statistical things that he did, and then also take your team from being the dregs of the league to the NFC Championship game, I think it's the greatest rookie season we've ever seen. So how do you get better? Well, you put the things around him. Deebo Samuel's coming in motivated. That's the best part about this deal. They didn't just trade for Deebo Samuel. They traded for Deebo Samuel in the final year of his contract, where he's not taking a pay cut from that massive deal he got from the 49ers. So he's making huge money, coming over to Washington, and basically in a 1-year deal. And the Commanders front office is saying, we're putting our names on you. Adam Peters drafted him out there in San Francisco. I'm going to put my faith in you. I'd love to pay an extension, but you got to earn it. So here comes Deebo, motivated, looking to go. We know what he can do. And then you mentioned Jalen Lane at the end there, Louis. Look, 4th-round pick, day 3 guy, Virginia Tech out of Middle Tennessee State. Just watch. This is one of those guys that Cliff Kingsbury had his eye on during the pre-draft process. Got him. Don't be shocked if you see a lot of Jalen Lane in that offense early and often for the Washington Commanders.
Mm-hmm. You normally make your biggest improvement from year 1 to year 2. And so I think that's why we all are super excited about Jaden Daniels. And I think for him, even though he had a really good year last year, at the quarterback position, the game is going to slow down. So it's going to allow him to make the people around him better. That's number 1. Number 2, I think he's got to understand that even though he rushed for 800-plus yards last year, you can continue to do that. But now you're so valuable to this team, to this city, to this organization. Make sure that you put those Lamar Jackson rules. Get everything you can get and then get down. Get everything you can get and then get out of bounds. That's the type of altitude he has ascended to right now, because he can be the MVP of this league, but he's got to continue to move forward and take that next step. And the next step for him is, how do you become amongst the elite, like Josh Allen, like Mahomes, like Lamar Jackson, where you can take your team and put them in these rare games consistently, year after year after year. And everything you guys said is true, but now it's time for him to build off of it and take that next step.
Yeah, 8 games where he led the team in both passing and rushing yards. I mean, no rookie has ever done that in history. To your point, Peter, we really haven't seen anything quite like him. And by stark contrast, the guy who was drafted ahead of him. Let's go to Caleb Williams. He is starting year 2 at OTAs this week. The first time we're seeing the former #1 overall pick since excerpts from Seth Wickersham's book were released, saying that Williams would watch film alone as a rookie with no guidance from the coaches. There's actually a quote in the book from Williams talking to his father and saying, and I quote, "No one tells me what to watch. I just turn it on." Caleb was asked about that today, new on NFL Live.
It wasn't that I didn't know how to watch film. It was more or less the sense of learning shortcuts in the sense of, or not learning shortcuts, but learning ways to watch film and be more efficient, learning ways to, pick up things better. It's on the present. We're focused on now. We're focused on, trying to get this ship moving in the right direction. And I think so far that's what we've been doing. Main goal and the main objective of being here is to turn around. That's why I was selected number one. And so, that's what we're here to do. That's what they brought me here to do. That's what they brought all these guys here to do. Joe, DJ, all these different guys. And that's why they brought Ben here.
Yeah, referring to their new head coach, Ben Johnson. What impact do you envision that he will have on Caleb Williams, Lewis?
I think he'll have a huge impact. I mean, obviously, look, Caleb is trying to be nice right there, okay? Mm-hmm. He's trying to say, hey, look, he's trying to spin this forward, because what he's basically telling you is, hey, look, no one was helping me be more efficient. No one was giving me some of the tips and some of the tricks of the trade in terms of this is what you need to be watching and paying attention this week against this opponent with this defensive structure. And this is how we can be more efficient, give us a chance to win more games. I think, look, as much as Ben Johnson is going to be in the spotlight here because he was such a whiz as a play caller in Detroit and now he's the head coach, the guy who you really need to keep an eye on is JT Barrett, the quarterback coach in Chicago. That is going to be Caleb's confidant. That's going to be the guy who really is the go-between between him and the primary play caller, which is Ben Johnson. That's the guy who can say on the sideline, hey, Ben, you need to now run the football. He just took a shot. He's not feeling real good. Call this play. Remember, we talked about this. Get him going. Get him in rhythm. I remember I've talked to numerous quarterback coaches about that, about the role that they play as the go-between between the QB and the primary play caller and how they can keep things going smoothly. And they're the ones who can teach them about being efficient. And that's why JT Barrett is so critical this year, as much as Ben Johnson himself.
There's